Elon Musk is often referred to as the real-life Tony Stark, a genius inventor and hero who is humanity's only hope at survival. Yeah, can you believe we used to think that? Okay, so at this point, it's pretty well recognized that Elon Musk is not the hero we were promised. As a matter of fact, most of us weren't really aware of who he was or much about his past until he blew up on the scene with his fiery rockets. And also fiery cars. Something about Emerald Mine, South Africa, something about PayPal. Look, his past is a little bit jumbled all over the place. However, there is one aspect of his past that is well documented and should be front page news for anyone who believes Elon Musk resembles anything close to a genius inventor. I am talking about the founding and creation of the Tesla. Before discussing Tesla, though, I feel it is important to discuss Elon's upbringing and young adult life very briefly. It will set the stage, if you will, for Elon's questionable future decisions. We will start in 1950, when a man named Joshua N. Hadelman relocated himself and his family from Canada to South Africa. Joshua was a chiropractor who enjoyed aviation with his wife. You see, Canada prior to the 1950s wasn't exactly a paradise for people who weren't white. Yes, even Canada has a dark recent history. Joshua and his family found this appealing about Canada, actually. Until, of course, more laws were being passed to ensure that discrimination and racism had no place in any of the 10 provinces. In fact, the 1950s were a time of progression for Canada. Joshua decided that his family needed to move, and so they went to a place that would share his irrational fear and prejudice. 1950s South Africa. Joshua would go on to live out the rest of his days in South Africa, even writing some conspiracy theory fan fiction in his later years. Boy, would he be proud to see his grandson today. Oh yeah, I suppose I forgot to mention, Joshua Hadelman is Elon Musk's grandfather. Joshua had 5 children, including his daughter Maye, who was Elon's mother. Maye became a model and married a man named Elon Musk. It's all starting to come together now. Elon Musk was their firstborn child, born June 28, 1971. Growing up, Elon would oftentimes go non-verbal. He would avoid eye contact and did not have many friends as he didn't like social interaction. He would sometimes appear aloof and disinterested or unwilling to speak with others about topics that he didn't find interesting, instead opting to only talk about the topics that he found to be interesting. In his adult life, it's still there sometimes. Look at when he thinks a joke is funny or a business idea sounds cool. He has a habit of believing that everyone around him should also think so, no matter how bad the idea or joke really is. Anyway, back to the topic. Elon's father, Errol, was a successful engineer and also had a brief stint as a politician in the early 1980s. Errol was described as having, quote, the biggest house in Pretoria. Pretoria being the city in South Africa where the Musks lived. So this is the big one. Allegedly, when Elon was 15 years old, his father acquired half of a Zambian emerald mine in a trade with a Panamanian Italian entrepreneur. Errol allegedly traded his Cessna Golden Eagle for a stake in the emerald mine. If you're up to date at all on Elon Musk these days, you know that in 2024, Elon vehemently denies that this ever happened, that there was ever even an emerald mine to begin with. Did it really happen? Who knows? Elon did mention the mine in a Forbes interview in 2014 before his recent denials, so there is that. The interview has also since been removed from any Forbes website, so that is a bit suspicious. According to Elon's dad, Errol, they had, quote, so much money at times we couldn't even close our safe. One person would have to hold the money in place with another closing the door. And then there'd still be all these notes sticking out, and we'd sort of pull them out and put them in our pockets. Anyway, we will leave that as it is. Jumping forward a bit in Elon's life, Elon would start his very first company with money he received from his very wealthy father. His first company was called Zip2. It was a software company that Elon would then go on to sell for millions of dollars, over $300 million in 1999. Elon's share was valued at around $22 million. Elon is a millionaire. Just like that. Elon then had ownership in a company he tried to call X.com. Yes, X.com, that is in 2002. The company would actually become known as PayPal. Elon was voted out of the company, however, for incompetency, but did manage to sell it before it was too late. He received about $165 million from this sell. You see how easy it is to flop upwards when you have rich parents and part ownership in an emerald mine? That is allegedly, of course. Allegedly. So now that Elon's backstory is explained in somewhat decent detail, it's time to hone in on what this video is really about. In 2004, Elon set his eyes on Tesla Incorporated. Let's get this out of the way now. Elon Musk did not invent or create the Tesla. Keep in mind, I'm saying invent and create. He did not design it. He had no stake in the production, engineering, mechanics, or any process involved in creating the actual, tangible Tesla vehicle. Elon seems to enjoy the title of, quote, real-life Tony Stark, as he claims to be a founder and inventor of the Tesla motor. This really is an insult to the two men who did actually create the billion-dollar vehicle conglomerate that we see today. Two men whose names are already being forgotten in history. Martin Eberhard and Marc Tarpenning, co-founders of Tesla Incorporated. Martin Eberhard was born in 1960 in California. A true genius in the world of mechanics and engineering alike, Martin attended the University of Illinois. Not long after graduating, he was already creating and inventing computers, doing so at Wise Technology, until he co-founded Network Computing Devices in 1987. Martin's knack for entrepreneurship would attract the work of Marc Tarpenning. Marc Tarpenning was another innovator with a long background in engineering, earning his degree in computer science at UC Berkeley. Although an innovator like Martin, you could argue that Marc was more ambitious in his pursuit of networking. Instead of working for just one company, Marc would develop multiple software products for multiple global companies alike, including Textron, located in Saudi Arabia. The two men would bring their like minds together in 1997, together co-founding Nouveau Media. They would collaborate again in 2003 for an even more ambitious and more passionate project for the both of them. So this is why I am explaining these two men's history to you, because these two are the true and rightful inventors of the Tesla. When I say they were co-founders, I really did mean just the two of them. That's it. There was no Elon Musk. Well, not yet. You see, the two men wanted to build a different kind of vehicle. One that wasn't just a piece of machinery, but also a piece of software. A computer that could get you to and from work. If this idea sounds familiar to us modern car drivers, that's because it is familiar. Almost every modern car today looks, feels, and drives like it is a computer as much as it is an engine. This was not always the case though, and it would seem that these two, Martin and Marc, were way ahead of their time. The issue with this was, developing a vehicle, computer, electric thing that no one in the world had ever seen before is kinda hard to get funding for. It's almost like asking PETA to start a funding account for preservation of unicorns. I'm sure they'd appreciate the enthusiasm, but it just doesn't sound very promising. So then, who would be the perfect candidate to help fund this project? Oh, you're saying we have an out-of-touch rich kid / man-child who's been flopping upwards his entire life? Oh, and he has an unhealthy obsession with applying science fiction standards to our own world? And he's been outed as CEO at every company he's ever worked for, so he has a personal vendetta? Well, yeah, but he's got like millions of dollars. And so, in 2004, it would become as such, and Elon Musk was officially brought into the fold, bringing along over $7 million with him as initial investment. The two met Elon at a gathering for Mars Society members, go figure. They apparently bonded over their love for space exploration. Again, go figure. At first, Martin and Marc did not seem to mind Elon, and in fact, they found him rather enthusiastic, and of course, having his money didn't hurt. Martin Eberhard would say this about Musk, quote, "My initial impression of him was he was quite smart and quite enthusiastic." This would not be the only thing Martin says about Elon's character, but we will get to that. It didn't take long for the Elon Musk we know today to start showing his true colors. Elon had an overbearing nature. He created a rude work environment. He had an unearned authoritarian attitude, as well as every engineer's worst nightmare. He was a rich dude who's never been told no in his life, so he would make drastic and extremely difficult to achieve design changes to the early Tesla models, because he thought they sounded cool. This became very disheartening for Martin and Marc. Musk even went as far as to push both Martin and Marc aside when the Tesla started to make itself known to the public, instead inserting his own face and name as Tesla's top dog. Elon even orchestrated the firing of the company's founder, inventor, and CEO, Martin Eberhard. Martin Eberhard describes in a CNBC interview that he was, quote, "voted off the island in a rather rude way."
Can you describe the moment that you realized you could no longer be part of Tesla?
No.
Is there anything you can say about why you left?
No. I was voted off the island, and in a rather rude way, it wound up with some lawsuits and some settlements, and it's history now. Yeah, so I can't say a lot about it.
In the same interview, Marc is quoted saying, quote, "When I left Tesla, the Roadster was essentially finished, and I had been doing nothing but Tesla for 5 years."
Yeah, so I...
He got to wear the white hat.
I know, I did not do that. When I left Tesla, we had the Roadster was essentially finished, and we were waiting on one particular super annoying thing, dealing with the transmission and changing some power electronics, which nearly tanked the company. That's one of those near-death experiences of the company. And we were reassigning all of the engineers to the new sedan project, which we'd been working on in a small level for the previous year or so. And as the engineers would come off the design team for the Roadster, we were shifting over to the Model S. And I looked at that, and I had 3 little kids at home, and I'd been doing nothing but Tesla for 5 years, and I thought it's going to be another 5 years. And Martin wasn't there anymore; it wasn't as much fun, and I thought, yeah, it's time to leave. And I don't have any regrets. It was an awesome time. Yeah. The whole thing was wonderful from the beginning to the end. It was, the worst and the best, and it's worked out great.
Martin Eberhard would go on to sue Elon Musk on grounds of libel, defamation, breach of contract, infliction of emotional distress, and failure to pay his wages. As Elon Musk was the primary shareholder in Tesla, though, Martin was essentially powerless to do anything against Elon and his actions. Elon even went as far as violating he and Martin's non-disparagement clause, according to Martin. The two would eventually settle their lawsuit. Settling a lawsuit does not mean that you redact your accusations, as is a common misconception. The legal system is a complicated one, though, and oftentimes the very wealthy can afford to make lawsuits go away by simply having enough money to pursue them. Martin Eberhard did not settle because he wanted to take back what he said or because he changed his mind about the horrible things that Elon had done. He had to settle because the lawsuit would have destroyed him. He simply did not have the funds to pursue a lawsuit with Elon. And really, no one does. Elon is the richest man on the planet. No one could pursue a lawsuit with him, and that is what's dangerous. Martin is quoted as saying, quote, "Although he's been flagrantly violating that agreement over and over and over again, he's also the richest man in the world. And if he decides to crush me with lawsuits, I can't survive it." Let's leave it like this. Was Elon Musk a very early on investor in Tesla? Yes. Did Elon Musk help in the growth and stardom of Tesla? Yes, especially with the amount of money he provided the company. Absolutely. And would Tesla be where it is today without Elon and his money? Absolutely not. However, if you are going to make this argument for Elon, you have to be fair to the other side as well. You must ask, would Tesla exist today if it were not for Martin Eberhard and Marc Tarpenning? The answer is absolutely not. They were the brains behind the operation. They were the innovators, the risk takers. They brought their dreams into reality. The Tesla Roadster was already complete when Elon Musk took over as Tesla's CEO. The two had already had a long-term business model of entering different car markets that worked. All they needed was funding from Elon, not input. When saying stolen valor, it means that Elon refuses to give the credit where it is deserved and earned. He ousted and vilified the two men that he should be thanking the most. A man that would do such a thing is a man without integrity or respect.